Michael Burry, he's one of the few men who predicted 2008, profiting millions of dollars by shorting the housing market, an amazing feat that was developed into a hit movie, propelling Burry into the mainstream. Over a decade later, Burry is now suggesting a different crash, one much worse in magnitude. In today's video, we dive deep into Michael's tweets, analyzing the dire predictions he's been making over the past few months, predictions that suggest a terrifying and alarming situation developing in the United States. So as you may already know, Michael Burry stays out of the media. Outside of a speech done at a UCLA commencement, a 60 Minutes report, and a few other snippets, finding any video footage of the guy is nearly impossible. However, in recent times, he did create a Twitter account which often posts various types of content, not always finance related, but content nonetheless. I went ahead and accumulated all of his recent tweets regarding only markets, filtering out the politics, the music, and all the other non-related posts. What I ended up with is a collection of data that we can use to conclude where Burry stands. The findings, as you will see, are shocking. We begin with three common themes we see throughout the past few months. One of Burry's most tweeted topics is the US personal savings rate. This metric has been tracked since 1959, and right now it's signaling something special. As we go through these themes, you will start to piece together his overall thesis. You'll see what I mean towards the end. A lot of his stuff is centered around the consumer. If you recall from previous uploads, consumer spending makes up around 75% of the economy, so if that portion begins to struggle, the overall economy almost always suffers as well, which brings us to this. On May 27th, he tweeted the following: US savings have fallen to 2013 levels while revolving credit is back to the pre-COVID peak, a stat that suggests a looming consumer recession and more earnings trouble. In summary, what Burry is alluding to here is the fact that Americans are saving very little and increasing their debts at the same time. The last time we saw similar statistics was right before 2008, and this has a lot of people scared for the future. He went on to tweet on June 2nd a similar graph showing US personal savings divided by GDP. This graph, in essence, is meant to show the financial health of the consumer, taking into account the prosperity of the country versus the average person's savings. The lower this line goes, the more unhealthy the economy. The last all-time low was set in July 2005, and as we can see, the chart seems to be headed towards that record indicated by that red line. Burry suggests that if we continue at our pace, we will hit that line late this year. Now these stats are obviously concerning, yet the market doesn't seem to be pricing them in yet. Most companies are still assuming earnings growth in the near term. If we look at a chart of future expected earnings, we see that the largest companies in America are assuming nothing is wrong, and as Q2 and Q3 numbers come in, they will finally see the reality of the situation. Now outside of the savings rate, I've noticed Burry continues to be worried about housing. He tweeted on June 11th an article from Cherry Creek Mortgage with the following quote: "The CPI news this morning was so awful, it changed the bond market's view of Fed trajectory, and the weakest sector broke. In bond jargon, MBS went no bid. No buyers for MBS." Now what this means is pretty complex, but in summary, condensing it down to a simple explanation, it means that mortgages as we know them are not worth it to investors under current yields, aka investors are signaling that mortgages are no longer worth buying at this risk level. The 10-year bond, which is the instrument to watch when it comes to mortgage rates, has cooled off in the last week, but regardless, fixed rates going from 3% to 6% in a few months has significantly changed market dynamics. Now everyone is worried about a slowing housing market, Burry included. At the same time, however, his tweets are not an accurate gauge of what his money is doing. As far as filings go, we can see that Burry isn't shorting the housing market, at least not from the research I did. It only shows that he's short Apple via put options. So it's really hard to tell what his true thoughts are about the future of markets when it seems that his tweets don't always align with his positions. Now the final argument Burry focuses on when outlining his bear case is the differences between what is happening now and what happened in the 70s. Many people see the inflation occurring right now and the troubles we have with oil prices and compare this period to the 1970s, claiming we must be going through something similar. Michael disagrees with this, arguing that in the 70s we had a growing labor force following a post-World War II baby boom. Today we have the opposite with our current birth rate at 1950 levels and nuclear families at 1959 levels, despite the fact that our population is nearly 2 times bigger today than what it was back then. This fact, according to him, changes the dynamics of the situation significantly, with growth limited by a red-hot labor market that is extremely tight despite the current financial conditions. So essentially, Burry is saying that this time it's different. In fact, this time it's worse. We have an aging population, inflation, a massive real estate bubble, an equity bubble, and serious political division. If you put all of the things Michael Burry talks about together, you get one of the most bearish summaries possible. From what I could gather piecing together his tweets, he believes consumer spending is going to fall while at the same time housing is going to slow down. These two components make up the overwhelming majority of the overall economy. Then throw in inflation, declining birth rates, and political tension, and you have a recipe for a disaster. In fact, in the last few weeks, he's tweeted out various material suggesting that while he remains bearish, train wrecks like this one we are living through right now materialize over years, not days. It takes many quarters for the market to truly come to grips with the reality of the situation, and throughout history, we have seen bear graphs take dozens of months to truly bottom out. My only critique of Burry is that he's not very direct with his statements. He tweets out various material that suggests a complete meltdown of markets, while at the same time he refuses to elaborate and remains hidden from the media. For such a strong opinion, I do believe you not only have to put your money where your mouth is, but you have to publicly defend all those challenges that come to you. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it.